My friend and yours, Oral Hershiser. You know him best as the Bulldog, of course, World Series champion, World Series MVP, all the things. So many different things to put on his mantle. And of course, one of the best broadcasters in one of the best booths in all of Major League Baseball alongside Joe Davis. Oral, good to be with you. Thank you so much. As we are basically a third of the way through the season, what grade would you give your Dodgers to this point?
Wow. You can't grade them on a curve because they have raised the bar so high. So this is not a classroom of Dodgers where you go, oh, we're going to have to bring down, a C is now 60%. So the bar is so high. I can't give them an A because, that would be probably undefeated for the bar they raised for themselves with this roster and talent and everything they got going. But they're definitely at a B plus. And I'd say they're at a B plus because it's a little streaky. It's a little streaky for the offense. There's the big highs of 10 games or so of over 10 runs, but then you have the games where they don't score 3. And so they would tell you that they're a little bit more streaky, but they're beating the teams they should beat, and they're beating some of the high caliber teams too.
Got a high caliber player there, both sides of the ball with Shohei Ohtani. We talk a lot about Shohei Ohtani and also at the same times, not enough about what he's doing. We know what he could do with the bat. We've seen that a lot over the first 2 years of him in Dodger Blue, but now he is a full-time two-way player in his third season in Dodger Blue, and it's impressive. We're talking about right now an ERA, as of the time we're recording, an ERA under 1. Even when he doesn't have his best command, the stuff is still just so dangerous, so dominant. Have you ever seen anything like a Shohei Ohtani, even down to the Little League where you guys were going and pitching and playing shortstop and catching and all that stuff at the same time? Like the amount of talent that this dude has. Just kind of talk about seeing the unicorn day in and day out.
Well, you have a million people at the Little League level that can do this. As you go up the pyramid of sports and you get near the peak, of course, it's only one. There's him. But where do they start to fall off? They really start to fall off around college because high school coaches let their best athletes do both. They're in the game no matter what, with their bat, with their arm, on the mound, at shortstop. At college, you see a few. And there's few more now that Shohei's doing what he's doing, and the big leagues are grasping and really hugging the two-way player because it expands their roster. And I think that, but one of a kind. He's one of a kind, and it's not only one of a generation. It might be one of a lifetime for people, and it could be once every 100 years we see somebody. And I don't mean somebody's going to do it both ways, but somebody's going to do it at an elite level. And elite is not an easy word to say, but you can say elite for him on both sides of the ball, and you're not stretching it.
Well, I've been accused on this podcast of being a Roki Sasaki apologist. And I think it's important to remember that he is, although he comes rightfully with so much hype and fanfare, still a pitching prospect. And as we saw him go through May, took a lot of steps forward. What have you seen from Roki over the last few starts that has you encouraged?
Well, I think he's gone through the natural adjustments of somebody coming from the Far East, and the change of the ball, and the number of games, and how often you're supposed to pitch, length of the spring training, food, culture, travel, all the different things. But the microscope was on him, and he wasn't really allowed to go through those without being judged. And then the performance of last year, and then putting it together and then contributing in a big way in the playoffs and the World Series, I thought it was a great transformation and a great step forward. But then he comes back into spring training, wants to be a starter, the Dodgers want to be a starter, and he starts to fall again. Excuse me. And the main reason is probably because he needs to throw a lot more pitches and a lot more consistently. And he had not built the consistency yet. He had the stuff to be a short reliever. He had the stuff to go out there for an inning or two, but to go around the order a second time, to let the opposing team start to see what you're landing and what you're not landing. He went through a serious learning curve and went through a lot of defeat. And with that, I think it softened his personality. It softened his ability to say, you know what, I do need to change. And that happens with all young players. with certain players, we see them go up and down from the minors. They get exposed, they learn what they need to work on, they go back down to the AAA. They get exposed again, they get called up, and they have to work on even more. We're not seeing that with him. He's having to develop at the big league level. I think one thing, it's because they really think it's going to pop at any time because of the great ability. The other reason, I think, is because he's very popular on the team and guys around him want to succeed. And we have the ability of a rotation to kind of carry somebody. Kind of like when Sandy Koufax came to the big leagues and he was a draft pick that got $100,000 or more, and he had to stay in the big leagues for the Dodgers to keep him because that was the rule. Well, it's kind of the same thing around Sasaki. It's like the potential is there. We've got him. We got time to develop him, and we've got the talent around him that it's not going to hurt our playoff chances, that he can do it. And what have I seen in him physically or mentally or emotionally? I've seen mechanical changes. I've seen consistency. I've seen the confidence grow. And that all is like executed, and the results are when he's in the strike zone. We knew if he was going to be in the strike zone, he's going to be really good. And that Connor McGinnis and Mark Pryor have kind of added the slider and upped the usage of it, and he's gained confidence in that. And now he actually has a breaking ball to complement the split, to complement what used to be the fork, to complement the four-seam fastball up and the four-seam fastball and two-seam fastball down. He's got another breaking ball that gives him a weapon that on certain days, when he's not landing the split, he can land the slider.
August 30th, 1988, the sixth inning of a game against the Expos ended in the 10th inning of the September 28th start against the San Diego Padres. I remember very early in my tenure with you on the set for Sportsnet LA, we were talking about the scoreless innings streak, and it came up that you had 59. I was like, you did? That was you? You're like, really? You didn't know that? And I know that now. It's so impressive. It's still the record in Major League Baseball for consecutive scoreless innings. So, Bulldog, I want you to brag a little bit on what Christopher Sanchez of the Phillies is doing right now.
Yeah, the interviews have started. I think he's at around 44 as of this taping. I think that with Christopher Sanchez, he's going through a great time in his life. He's doing something that he loves, and he's doing it very well. The baseball probabilities of us ground ball pitchers, their balls are being hit at people. You know, you're not making mistakes up, and when you do, your outfielders are catching it for you. It's a team record, but it also gets attributed to an individual. And, the worst part of my personality when I got to the big leagues was reacting to things and not responding to things. And so you have to learn to be a good responder. And a response is kind of a thoughtful thing where the nerves and the pressure and the 50,000 people, and this is for the playoffs, or this is for my team, or this is for whatever, the world championship. And this could be the last pitch if I get this guy, Tony Phillips, out, and you start almost crying. And you think about little boy things, and they tell you to enjoy it. But I couldn't enjoy it. I had to go out there and focus and respond to the situation. So I hope he has a great response to the chasing of the record. For me, I'm so present tense. I am so present tense that to think of the past and how it might affect my future, it already has. And so I am not going to wish ill will on somebody that has a chance to have a life-changing moment, a life-changing headline, and then see what happens for him with that. I think the most important part of 88 and that string you talked about is that it continued into the playoffs and the World Series, and winning the MVP in the NLCS, winning the MVP in the World Series, being on the mound for the last pitch of the World Series, doing the Disney commercial, and having those memories with all my teammates. You know, we're doing a lot of things as we continue on. Those trophies will get dust, they'll get rusty, but, the relationships will last forever. So I want to respond to this, not react to it. Now I can't, excuse me, I have to broadcast today. I can't say that the same feelings are for my friends and family. I would have to say they are reacting. So I am responding and thinking about it, and I'm not gonna put ill will onto somebody or root against them that has a chance to have a life-changing moment.
For the transparency of the audience, we are recording this before Christopher Sanchez's most recent start, which I think he's starting for the Phils on Tuesday. So there's behind the scenes there. But Bulldog, you're talking about the past and how it could relate to the future for everybody. I want to talk about the CBA negotiations, of course, in '94. Putting you on the spot here, and of course, don't upset the organization. We don't want to cut off your paycheck. But
I just signed a new deal too.
We love that. How long are you here for?
Congrats!
Yeah, that's an important one there. We'll get back to me. How long we still got Bulldog in our life?
Oh, we signed a 3-year deal with another option, so we might be here till I'm ancient. No, I'm 67, so we're signed till 71.
I'm sorry.
Congratulations!
Breaking news on Dodger territory.
If
Congratulations!
you guys keep getting 5 stars, we'll still be doing this 4 years from now.
So somebody mash that thumbs up button for the Bulldog there, and having him around, and maybe he's going to get back into podcasting with Joe Davis, but that's a different story. But
that's a lot of work. You guys do a lot of good work. It's a lot of work.
Was it Krajewski? Did he get lazy on you guys?
No, Rick Krajewski is the man. Dr. Krajewski, his nickname for me is Oral Intelligence because he hands me a 3x5 card and I look smart. I look really smart.
One of the best. I love Richard, as I call him. I don't know if it annoys him, but I love calling him Richard. All right, so CBA talks, 1994. Of course, the season is cut short because there's talk of a salary cap. Now we're hearing salary cap back in the ethos, back in the lexicon here. You don't necessarily need to speak so much about this now, but as a former professional baseball player, what would a salary cap do to the players' side of it? Obviously, the owners want a reason to not spend money, but how bad could this be for baseball or for players?
I'll lead off that I'm proud to be an American. And I believe in the free market system.
Amen.
So I think that a lot of what goes on is trying to protect the health of the sport. And I think ownership tries to protect the health of the sport. And I think players are always looking for freedom. And those two equations don't always match up because there's the heart of the fans, the heart of the cities, the heart of we developed a player, we'd love to keep him, that we've invested in players, we'd love to keep them. And players are like, as I grow and as I earn and as I get better, I want the freedom to have the highest bidder for me. And that does not exist because you have to earn that with free agency, but it does exist a little bit with arbitration. It does exist a little bit with minimum salaries. And then there are other perks around that, of course, which are really off the chart as far as human comforts, is whether it's, the Dodgers in their plane or the locker room, the way it's built, and other expenses that, it's fantastic to play in the big leagues. So the CBA is a very tough year. It's a sad year for, I think, everybody, from players to owners to fans. And hopefully it's something that we can get to the pressure points early enough that baseball is not taken off the board. We usually see that both sides start from very far off tangents, and then both sides work themselves to what is the middle, where we have no idea where the middle is. And usually it is the players that are giving in, because we can see how the needle has moved through the years. I think early on when the union was formed, it was looking like the players were winning because they were gaining back something as far as freedom, as far as retirement fund, as far as a portion of the national TV package. But the revenues now are so great and are so complicated, and the needle has moved so far as into a king's ransom salaries and perks for the players that it seems like the players are always giving something up. And that's okay. But I think the main thing for the players, where their fight is going to be, is protecting all the different generations of players, from even the minor leaguers to the early big leaguers to the rookies to the guys eligible for arbitration, to then when you qualify for free agency, and then how much money you can make once you get into those equations. And so it's a very hard, complicated equation. But I think, hopefully for me, as a broadcaster, as an ex-player, as an ex-union rep, as a rookie that made it, as a minor leaguer for 4.5 years, as playing in the Dominican Republic and Venezuela, Arizona Instructional League, going to all those spring trainings, put all that work in. It turned out to be a wonderful life. But this CBA is the kind of thing that, it's a tough time.
Well, the other day at Chase Field, we were having a conversation pregame about Mr. Justin Robleski. And I think his approach to pitching is the perfect blend of that old school mentality and really being open-minded to the analytics side of the game. What do you see from Robleski that reminds you maybe even a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. My fastball moved a lot more, but he is very much into fastball command. I did want to throw the ball inside and outside, but my primary motive was to make sure it moved first, because I know late movement is the number one tool, because we know a knuckleball works. So he has decided that I am going to pound the zone and watch Clayton Kershaw at the tail end of his career when Robleski was up, and saw a guy that had less stuff than him, but was having a much lower ERA than him, was having much more success than him. And he's like, so it's not about stuff. What is Clayton doing that is making him succeed? And what it is he controlled the count. He controlled the batters. He didn't back down when all of a sudden there was things melting down around him with men on base. Clayton continued to attack, and he attacked mainly with two pitches, his fastball and his slider. Of course, there was the curveball from heaven, but the curveball from heaven, even his last 3-4 years, was not there. He used it more as an off-speed pitch. The other thing Clayton had to do is he had to make adjustments and start throwing to the arm side instead of the glove side, and he threw there more often. He even tried to develop a changeup. So Robleski, what he has done is he's realized, and I think a lot of the pitchers need to realize this, there are so many different equations for success other than measuring your velocity and your spin rate. It really does come down to movement and execution. And if you can make the ball move at 70 miles an hour, or you can locate at 100 miles an hour, the equation is right there in front of you. And so I love it when all of a sudden the light bulb goes on for somebody and they start to pitch. And pitching is about counts. It's about getting outs. It's about getting quick outs. It's about finding a swing and miss when you need it and only you need it. I think one of my favorite quotes from our little conversation there in Arizona was the fact that you said, let me think, at 67, I almost blanked on it. You don't get any reward for a swing and miss than when the count is 0-1. It doesn't strike the guy out. It just is a strike. So I would rather, in my day, if there's a man on second and no out, I don't want the guy moved over to third, I might think about finding a way to get a strikeout, not getting the ball put in play. Man on third, less than 2 outs, definitely maybe going to think about a strikeout. But if the scoreboard says 6-0 my lead, I am not going to risk a crooked number for the team to come back just to try and save my ERA. I'm going to trade it out for a run. And I think he's starting to understand that whole winning equation, not only about the batter, but the scoreboard, the situation, where the wind's blowing, all the different things. Am I on artificial turf? Am I on grass? Do I want the out to the left side, to the right side? There are so many parts of pitching that are about winning, not about spin rate and velocity.
Man, I could listen to you talk about pitching forever. I learned so much from you. I learned so much from Pedro Martinez. It's just an encyclopedia of knowledge that it actually, not to say that you're dumbing it down, but you have a way of explaining things that's just really poetic. I want to talk about Dave Roberts' maturity. We're talking a little bit about Robleski's maturity and his development. Dave Roberts, Oral, you and I were there when he was introduced to the organization. I want to say it was back in 2016. And, he has just taken this team to new heights, but he's also had to mature as a manager. What have you noticed about Doc's development?
Wow. I think some of his development, people are going to think, I think the description that made it look like he wasn't ready was the public description, was people that got lazy and just said, well, he's new, and this is where he came from, and this is what he's going to do, and this is how strong the ownership is, and this is how strong the front office is. So Dave Roberts is just a puppet. And that pretty much at the beginning was the whole thing. And that got substantiated a little bit because they didn't go very far in the playoffs with an unbelievable roster. And so some of the maturity and some of the growth as a manager is reacting to negative things in the press. You have to talk to them 3 and 4 times a day. And then the fan reactions on talk radio, and then how we're going to turn that around, making sure that that doesn't infiltrate your roster. And so I think Dave's maturity is really just the growth. It's not something like, oh, he was lacking. I think the stress and the losing early on and the outside influences of the media and different people, I think it exposed great character. I think it exposed amazing character, and I think it's always been there. And then as the stature grew and he showed he could handle it, all of a sudden the narrative changed, and the narrative has changed to who Dave Roberts really is. Now, people grow and change, and he has, for sure. And it's in confidence in how he introduces the team in spring training, on how he sets goals, how he verbalizes the goals now. Like, if we don't win a world championship, you know what? It's a lost season. It's not what we're out here for. So he's able to be confidently out there right at the very beginning of a season, right, for the repeats and the trepeats and all of them. And who knows how long it's going to go on. But I've always told him in our text messages and our face-to-face phone calls and whenever we talk that I would have loved to play for him. I would have ran through a wall for him like I did for Tommy Lasorda. I would give up my body for him and just say, let's go win the game. Who cares about tomorrow? Because he loves his players so much. He cares about their careers. He looks at everyone individually. And, he starts out with, let's get comfortable being uncomfortable. But let's do it in your own style, in your own way. And he has been an amazing friend and an amazing manager.
Yeah, the people who like to complain, of which they have quieted down, but the people who like to complain, oh, fire Dave Roberts. It's like, find a better person to manage all of the personalities, all of the people who drive nice cars, as Mookie would say. That's a tough gig, and he is only getting better with age. Like wine, like Red Stitch wine. Shameless plug there for Doc. Another guy I want to talk about is, I mentioned Mookie there. It's been a little bit of a struggle, a little bit of a slog for him this season. Less about the mechanics side and all that kind of stuff, just mentally. Can you think back to moments in your career where you have kind of felt yourself struggling and lost at sea? What am I doing? How do you get yourself mentally back on track? Because we saw him check out last year, and that kind of worked for him. After his wife says, just be yourself. How did the Bulldog get himself mentally back on track?
Well, I think it would be hard to compare us, because an everyday player has to get up the next day and do it right away, where a starting pitcher, you've got 4 days or so to kind of regroup and talk with the team psychologist, talk with your wife, go out to dinner, relax, try and get away from the game, play with your kids, play golf. Everyday player, you immediately have to get right back out there. So any therapy that I was doing when I was bad mentally, I had a lot of time, where an everyday player, they have to speed up that clock in a hurry, whether it is, how do I get to sleep tonight because I can't, because I'm depressed and I'm grinding on everything, but I need my rest. It's going to spiral out of control, and this is going to lead to injuries or whatever. So it's just really hard for an everyday player. And a lot of my friends, everyday players, right? Like a Mike Scioscia, who hit 400 every April. And then by the end of the year, he was hitting 240, because just the grind of being a catcher and then carrying a pitching staff. For Mookie, I think Mookie has matured in a big way of dealing with this. He was the guy in Boston. He was the guy in LA. And now he understands he has a role with this team, and he will be the guy on certain nights in certain series, and possibly an MVP of a National League Championship Series or a World Series. And that could happen. But there's a role now on this team, and I think he's embracing it, and I think it's helping him relax and deal with offers a little bit better, and deal with looking up there with a 200 batting average. I think he can just say, you know what, every day. One of the things that he turned the corner last year was with, I'm going to come out every day. I'm not going to look at my numbers. I'm not going to look at how I feel. I'm going to do something today to help this team win, and to get out of yourself and into the team. I think that's a big step.
Well, I want to hit on maybe a bigger picture baseball question, because I'm a baseball traditionalist, and I believe in the value of stats that we've used to evaluate the game throughout its history. Not a lot of people agree with me, though. It's the Cardinal way. Thank you very much.
Even though we're on the Dodger side now, right?
You'll have to teach me the Dodger way. It's okay. I'm willing to make the adjustment. But when it comes to pitcher wins, we as an industry just don't value them the same as we used to. Do you still see the value in a starting pitcher win?
Well, I mean, you've heard me talk in this interview, and you can tell that I don't think about baseball. So, so the win to me is still very important. The ERA is still very important. I loved lately that Dave Roberts said something about, I don't mind a bad swing where it's a bloop hit. It's called a hit, and he gave himself a chance. It's not a swing and miss strikeout, come back to the bench. I think that I still value who's up next and what my pitch selection should be because of who's up next. I still value there's a base open. I still value strike one. I still think the most important pitch is the 1-1 pitch because it can go to 1-2 or 2-1. So yes, the W I think is still important. Going back to what we talked about with Robleski, if the score's 3-1 and there's 2 outs in the 7th and there's a tying run at the plate, my number one job is to not let him hit a home run. My other number one job is to know who's in the bullpen and who's fresh and who could come in behind me and what's the next guy. Does he strike out a lot? It's just, there's so much about pitch selection and where you put it. This is black and a ball and I'm not missing over the middle. This is, I've got to knock this guy down a little bit, but I can risk that I'm going to hit him. And that's okay if he ends up standing at first base because it's going to give me a better chance to get him out away. And I want to get him out away because the wind's blowing out to the pull side. So I want him to have to hit the ball the opposite field. I mean, that stuff all comes into W's. Now I understand we can break it down where it's no big deal. But I also understand in the moment, the history of the game and the stats and everything around it, in that moment is so much more special than all the stats that tell me exactly what to do compared to what I see, what I feel, and what I have as far as the current data of what's going on.
I don't want to let you go at all, but we have to wrap up our show. And I didn't want to wrap it up without talking about what you're doing. You continue to reinvent yourself. You and Dana have created such an amazing life for you guys and for your kids and all of the things. And I don't know that I've seen you smile more than at the open house for Oral Hershiser Chevrolet in Encino. Tell me more about how this came about. Or was it Chino? Where were you? I can't remember.
Yep, Chino, California.
Yeah.
So
tell me how
I have
this
a
came
life
about.
triangle now, Alana. I have this triangle because we live in Pasadena, and I drive out to Chino to the dealership.
Okay.
It's about 35 minutes, and I stay there from about 9 in the morning until about 2 in the afternoon, and then I take the hour drive from Chino into Dodger Stadium, and I announce the game, and I get home, and I have this whole triangle. We also have legends at
the dealership.
Yeah, we, got into the car business by way of a commercial being asked to endorse Rotolo Chevrolet and fell in love with it. The great thing about the car business is it has a bad reputation at times, and I can bring it a better reputation and say, we're going to stand behind our word. We're going to have integrity. And what I love about it is I've never seen anybody buy a new car and not be smiling. And so it's like a baseball game. You come to the game, you're smiling. You leave the game, hopefully you're smiling, your team won. But you leave a car dealership, you've won, and you're driving your new car, and you're getting to go to grandma's house, and you're getting to go travel to work, and you're getting to go to the kids' soccer games, and you're doing all this and that new car smell, and everybody's having fun. And so we can stand behind my word. I have a reputation of being an okay guy. And so hopefully people come in and know that they're going to get an honest shake. And it's a lot of fun to, I start a tradition there on Sundays when I'm home. I go to one of the flower guys under the bridges and I buy all of their flowers. I buy 25 bouquets. And I take them to the dealership, and any female that comes in, I feel like it's the female that's going to make the decision if the husband's going to buy the car or if the car is for the female. So I'm like, I am giving every lady that walks in a bouquet of flowers. I am putting them in a good mood. And if they're in a good mood, we got a chance. And our car sales on Sunday went from like 2 to 3 cars to like 7 or 9.
Yeah,
like,
look at that.
Now they got flowers.
It's the charm of 55. It's the charm. All right, what's coming up at Legends Attic? What do you got going on there before we say goodbye?
Well, we always have appearances and things. I think we've got Chris Taylor coming out after he announced his retirement. We've always had, the list goes on. But I just love Legends Attic because we make it memorable to buy memorabilia. And so the place is gorgeous. We're now in 3 locations. We're going to open up another one. We're probably going to have a freestanding building of 10,000 feet soon in about another 6 months or so. And so I just love making it memorable that people are coming for memorabilia, whether it's cards, jerseys, helmets, whatever it is, artwork. That's the fun part. That's the fun part of that too. And it's all smiles. And people say to us, we can't believe that you don't charge an admission. I'm like, it's not about the admission. It's about you coming in here and having a great time. And if you buy something, that's fantastic.
Oral, I'm proud of you. Always have been ambassador of the game, an ambassador of the Los Angeles Dodgers, and every single bit of this was earned. Nothing was given to you. Thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it, and we look forward to talking to you again soon, Bulldog.
You're my original friend in this crew, but these other 2 are becoming my friends now. And Katie, she's got her ways of becoming friends. It's not even.
You don't. Yeah, I'm gathering. You don't have a choice.
This is
you don't
one
have
strong
a choice.
personality to have on the Dodger beat. She is changing the whole beat.